Lonely Dragon suddenly snatched this little human boy, but the reason behind it surprised everyone. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The stars twinkled in the vast emptiness of space as the massive creature known as Vexor soared between systems. Its serpentine body stretched nearly half a kilometer, covered in iridescent scales that shimmered like polished obsidian in the light of distant suns. For over 7 centuries, the cosmic dragon had wandered alone. Cosmic dragons were rare beings, ancient creatures that had evolved in the deep void of space, capable of traversing the galaxy without ships or technology. Their bodies generated natural fields that protected them from radiation and the vacuum, and they possessed organs that could harness stellar energy for sustenance. Most impressively, they could fold space naturally, traveling vast distances in what other species would consider impossible time frames. Vexor was especially ancient, even for his kind. Over 2,000 years old, he had watched civilizations rise and fall across hundreds of worlds. He had witnessed the birth of stars and the death of entire solar systems. But for all his power and knowledge, Vexor was profoundly alone. The last of his kind had died nearly 3 centuries ago. Since then, he had wandered the galaxy in solitude, occasionally observing the younger species, but rarely interacting with them. Most sentient races viewed cosmic dragons with fear or awe, treating them as gods or monsters. Neither perspective appealed to Vexor. Today, however, something had drawn his attention. A faint signal, barely perceptible even to his enhanced senses, pulled him toward a small, unremarkable star system on the outer rim of the galaxy. The signal wasn't technological. It was something else, something familiar yet strange. As he approached the system, Vexor detected 7 planets orbiting the yellow star. The third planet, a blue-green marble wrapped in swirling white clouds, was the source of the signal. Vexor recognized the world immediately. Earth, home to the species known as humans. Vexor had observed humans before, watching from a distance as they evolved from primitive tribal societies to a spacefaring civilization. They were a curious species, physically unimpressive compared to many other races, yet remarkably adaptable and resilient. Their technological progress over the last few centuries had been extraordinary, expanding from their homeworld to colonize several nearby planets and moons. As Vexor entered the system, he cloaked himself using the natural light-bending properties of his scales. He didn't wish to alarm the humans or attract their military vessels. The signal grew stronger as he approached Earth, pulling him toward a specific location on the northern continent of what humans called North America. Descending through the atmosphere with practiced ease, Vexor found himself above a patchwork of forests and fields. The signal originated from a small settlement nestled between rolling hills and a winding river. Humans called these small collections of dwellings towns, if he remembered correctly. Vexor circled above, his massive form still cloaked from human detection. The town below appeared peaceful, with neat rows of houses, small commercial buildings, and scattered parks. At the edge of the settlement, nestled against the forest, stood a single dwelling slightly apart from the others. The signal emanated from this isolated house, a modest structure with peeling white paint and a slightly sagging roof. A large oak tree dominated the front yard, and a child's swing hung from one of its thick branches. Vexor narrowed his focus, peering through the roof of the dwelling. Inside, he detected 4 human life forms, 2 adults and 2 children. But only one of them was the source of the signal that had called to him across vast distances. The smaller male child, approximately 8 Earth years in age, radiated energy unlike anything Vexor had sensed from a human before. The energy signature was hauntingly familiar. It resonated with the same frequency as the life force of cosmic dragons. Impossible, Vexor thought. How could a human child possess the essence of his kind? The dragon watched for several days, shrinking his massive form to the size of a large bird to remain inconspicuous as he observed the family. The father left early each morning and returned in the evening, while the mother remained at home, tending to the children in the dwelling. The older female child attended what humans called school, but the younger male child remained at home. Vexor soon understood why. The boy was ill. He could sense the wrongness in the child's physical form, cellular damage spreading throughout his small body. The humans had a word for it: cancer. The disease was consuming the child from within, and according to the conversations Vexor overheard, the human healers had given up hope of curing him. Yet despite his failing body, the boy's spirit burned brightly. When he sat outside beneath the oak tree, gazing up at the sky, Vexor could feel the dragon essence within him pulse with yearning. The child somehow carried within him a fragment of cosmic dragon energy, a small spark of what Vexor's kind had once been. After a week of observation, Vexor made his decision. He could not allow this spark to be extinguished. Whether by some cosmic accident or design, this human child carried a piece of Vexor's lost species within him. The dragon could not, let that precious fragment die. On the 7th night, as the family slept, Vexor descended into the yard. He expanded his form slightly, growing from the size of a bird to that of a large horse. His scales shimmered in the moonlight as he moved silently toward the house. With careful precision, Vexor extended a portion of his essence through the wall of the dwelling, seeking the sleeping child. The boy, Ethan, the humans called him, lay in his bed, his breathing shallow and labored. The dragon essence within him flickered weakly, nearly overwhelmed by the disease ravaging his body. Vexor gathered the child in a gentle field of energy, lifting him from his bed without waking him. Drawing the boy through the wall of the house, Vexor cradled him against his scaled body. The moment they made physical contact, the dragon essence within Ethan flared brightly, responding to Vexor's presence. The dragon expanded to his full size, his massive form now visible to any who might look skyward. With one powerful thrust, he launched himself upward, carrying the sleeping child away from Earth and into the stars beyond. It wasn't until they had left Earth's atmosphere that Ethan awoke. The boy's eyes snapped open, widening in shock as he found himself suspended in a protective bubble of energy, pressed against the scaled body of a creature from his wildest dreams. "Am I dead?" were the first words from the child's mouth, his voice small but steady. "No, young one," Vexor responded, projecting his thoughts directly into the boy's mind. "You are very much alive." Ethan showed no fear, only wonder. He reached out a small hand to touch Vexor's scales, his fingers tracing the iridescent patterns. "You're a dragon," he said simply. "A space dragon. I've dreamed about you." Vexor's surprise rippled through their mental connection. "You have dreamed of me?" "Not you exactly," Ethan said, his eyes reflecting the starlight around them. "But dragons like you, flying between stars. I've dreamed about it since I was little." Understanding dawned on Vexor. The dragon essence within the boy had been communicating with him through dreams, preparing him for this moment. Those weren't just dreams, Ethan. They were memories. Confusion crossed the child's face. Memories? But they couldn't be my memories. I've never been to space before. Not your memories, Vexor explained gently. The memories of what you carry within you. A fragment of cosmic dragon essence. Somehow, some way, you were born with a piece of my kind inside you. As they spoke, Vexor continued to accelerate away from Earth, his natural ability to fold space beginning to engage. The stars around them seemed to stretch and blur. "Where are we going?" Ethan asked, his earlier calm giving way to concern. "My mom and dad will be worried when they wake up and I'm gone." "I am taking you to be healed," Vexor replied. "Your body is failing, Ethan. The human healers cannot save you." The boy's expression fell. "I know. Mom tries to hide it when she cries, but I can hear her at night. The doctors told them I only have a few months left. The doctors are correct, by human standards. But I know of places and beings in this galaxy with healing abilities far beyond what your species has developed. There is a chance they can save you." Hope flickered in Ethan's eyes, but then dimmed. "But my family, they'll think I'm dead. They'll be so sad." Vexor hadn't considered the emotional impact on the human family. Dragons had different concepts of family bonds, focusing more on the species as a whole rather than individual relationships. But he could sense the boy's distress through their connection. "I understand your concern," Vexor said after a moment. "But we must weigh the alternatives. If you remain, your death is certain. If you come with me, there is a chance for life, and for something more." "Something more?" "The dragon essence within you is not just a passive energy, Ethan. It is a potential, a seed that could grow. Under the right circumstances, with the right guidance, you could become something neither fully human nor fully dragon, but a bridge between our kinds." Ethan fell silent, processing this information with remarkable composure for one so young. Finally, he asked, "If I get better, can I go home someday? To tell my family I'm okay?" Vexor hesitated. The truth was, he didn't know what would happen if the healing was successful, or how the changes might affect the boy's human form. But he would not lie to the child. "I cannot promise that, Ethan. The path ahead is uncertain. But I swear to you that I will do everything in my power to keep you safe and, if possible, return you to your family someday." The boy nodded solemnly. "Okay. I trust you, Dragon. My name is Vexor." "I trust you, Vexor," Ethan corrected, a small smile touching his lips. As they prepared to make the jump to folded space, leaving Earth's solar system far behind, Vexor felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries, a lightening of the profound loneliness that had been his constant companion. This human child with the spark of dragon essence had awakened something within him, hope. Back on Earth, dawn broke over the small town. In the modest white house at the edge of the forest, a mother went to wake her son for his medication. Her screams of anguish upon finding his empty bed shattered the morning quiet. Within hours, the entire town was searching for the missing boy. By nightfall, state police had joined the search, and news crews broadcast the story of the missing sick child across the country. None of the searchers thought to look up to the stars, where Ethan Cole was traveling faster than light toward a distant world that might hold the key to his survival. 3 weeks later, Vexor and Ethan arrived at their destination, a small, emerald-green planet orbiting a binary star system in what humans would call the Andromeda Galaxy. The journey would have taken human vessels thousands of years, but Vexor's natural ability to fold space had brought them here in less than a month. During their journey, Ethan's condition had deteriorated. The protective energy field Vexor maintained around the boy sustained his life, but could not halt the progress of the disease consuming his small body. The child spent most of the journey in a deep sleep, his strength fading. Vexor descended through the atmosphere of the green world, heading toward a vast structure that dominated one of the smaller continents. From above, the building resembled a massive, 12-pointed star, its crystalline surface reflecting the light of the twin suns. This was the Great Sanctuary, home to the Luminals, an ancient species of energy beings who had long ago transcended physical form. The Luminals were known throughout the galaxy as healers and peacekeepers, one of the few races that cosmic dragons had historically respected and even allied with. As Vexor approached the central spire of the sanctuary, 3 glowing orbs of blue-white light rose to meet him. The Luminals communicated directly through consciousness, their thoughts touching Vexor's mind with familiar precision. Vexor of the Void Currents, the largest orb, greeted him. "It has been 3 centuries since you last visited our realm. We had believed all cosmic dragons extinct. I am the last," Vexor confirmed, the grief of this fact still sharp despite the passing centuries. "But perhaps not for much longer." He gently presented the sleeping human child suspended in his protective field. The Luminals drew closer, their light pulsing as they examined Ethan. "A human child," the second orb observed. "But there is something more within him. How is this possible?" "I do not know," Vexor admitted. "I sensed his presence from across the galaxy, a fragment of cosmic dragon essence housed within a human form. The child is dying, his human body failing. I have brought him to you in hope that you might heal him and help us understand how he came to carry the essence of my kind." The Luminals conferred among themselves, their lights blending and separating in patterns too complex for most species to comprehend. Finally, the third orb addressed Vexor. We will attempt to heal the human child and examine the dragon essence he carries. But understand, Vexor, that what you ask may not be possible. The biology of humans is fragile, and the presence of cosmic dragon energy within such a form is unprecedented. I understand the risks, Vexor replied. But the alternative is certain death for the boy, and the loss of perhaps the last spark of my species besides myself. With that understanding, the Luminals created a floating platform of pure energy beneath Ethan's sleeping form. The protective field Vexor had maintained around the boy merged with the Luminals' creation, and together they transported him into the heart of the sanctuary. Vexor followed, reducing his size to accommodate the structure's dimensions. They passed through crystalline corridors that seemed to sing with subtle harmonies, eventually reaching a circular chamber at the center of the complex. Here, the Luminals gently transferred Ethan onto a bed of softly pulsing light. The boy stirred but did not wake, his breathing shallow and his skin pale. "We must ask you to withdraw, Vexor," the first Luminal said. "Our healing process requires complete concentration, and your presence, so similar to the energy we must examine within the child, could interfere." Reluctantly, Vexor retreated to an observation chamber separated from the healing room by a wall of transparent crystal. Through this barrier, he watched as dozens more Luminals entered the central chamber, their glowing forms surrounding Ethan in a sphere of brilliant light. For 3 days and nights, Vexor maintained his vigil, watching as the Luminals worked tirelessly to heal the human child and understand the dragon essence within him. On the 4th day, the light surrounding Ethan grew so intense that even Vexor's enhanced vision could not penetrate it. The crystal wall of the observation chamber vibrated with power, and Vexor felt a resonance deep within his own being. The dragon essence within Ethan was responding to the Luminals' efforts. Finally, on the morning of the 5th day, the light receded. The Luminals withdrew from the central chamber, leaving only the original 3 who had greeted Vexor upon his arrival. Between them, suspended in a gentle field of energy, floated Ethan. But the boy was changed. His human form remained, but his skin now had a subtle iridescence that shifted with the light, reminiscent of Vexor's own scales. His hair, once brown, now shimmered with hints of deep blue and violet. And when he opened his eyes, they glowed with an inner light that no human had ever possessed. "The healing is complete," the first Luminal announced as Vexor entered the chamber. But it came with a price. Ethan turned at the sound of Vexor's approach, his face lighting up with recognition. "Vexor," he called, his voice stronger than the dragon had ever heard it. "I feel better. I feel different." Vexor moved closer, examining the changes in the child. "What have you done?" he asked the Luminals, both wonder and concern in his mental voice. "What was necessary to save him?" the second Luminal replied. The human disease had progressed too far for conventional healing. The cells of his body were too damaged to repair. We had only one option: to accelerate the integration of the cosmic dragon essence already present within him. "Integration?" Vexor echoed. "Yes," the third Luminal confirmed. The essence was not merely residing within him. It was gradually transforming him, had been since birth. "We simply completed a process that would have taken decades, perhaps centuries." Vexor turned his attention back to Ethan, who was now examining his own hands with fascination, watching the light play across his newly iridescent skin. "So he is becoming a cosmic dragon?" "Not exactly," the first Luminal clarified. "He is becoming something new, a hybrid of human and cosmic dragon. He retains his human form and consciousness, but now possesses many of the abilities and characteristics of your kind." "How is this possible?" Vexor asked. "How did a human child come to carry the essence of a species from across the galaxy?" The Luminals' lights pulsed in what Vexor recognized as their equivalent of hesitation. Finally, the second orb spoke. "We have examined the patterns within the child's very being. The dragon essence he carries bears specific resonance patterns, a genetic signature, if you will. We believe the essence he carries is that of Nerith. The name struck Vexer like a physical blow. Nerith? My mate. But she died over 3 centuries ago, when our kind was hunted by the Devourer fleets. Her physical form died. The third luminal corrected gently. But it appears she released her essence into the cosmos before her death, a last desperate act to preserve something of herself and your species. That essence drifted across the galaxy for centuries before finding a compatible host in this human child at the moment of his conception. Vexer moved closer to Ethan, examining him with new eyes. The boy looked up at him curiously, seemingly unafraid of the massive dragon despite the changes he had undergone. Does this mean he is my son? Vexer asked, his mental voice barely a whisper. Not in the biological sense that humans would understand, the first luminal explained, but in the sense that he carries the essence of your mate, transformed and merged with human genetics. Yes, he is connected to you in a way that no other being in the galaxy could claim. Ethan, who had been listening to this exchange with surprising composure, spoke up. Is that why I always dreamed about space dragons? Because I had a part of one inside me. Yes, young one, the second luminal confirmed. The memories and instincts of Nerith have been influencing your dreams and perhaps even your development since your birth. Cool, Ethan said simply, with the straightforward acceptance that only a child could manage in the face of such extraordinary revelations. Vexer found himself touched by the boy's reaction. In that moment, he made a decision that would alter the course of both their lives. Ethan, he said, lowering his massive head to the child's level. I brought you here to be healed, and the luminals have done that. You are free of the disease that was killing you. Now I must ask, what do you wish to do? Ethan considered this question with surprising seriousness for one so young. Can I go home? To see my mom and dad and sister? They must be really worried about me. Vexer looked to the luminals for guidance. The first orb pulsed softly before responding. It would be complicated. The boy is no longer fully human. His new abilities are still developing, still unstable. Without proper guidance, he could pose a danger to himself and others. What kind of abilities? Ethan asked, his eyes wide with excitement. In time, you will likely develop many of the natural powers of cosmic dragons, the third luminal explained. The ability to survive in space without protection, to fold space for rapid travel, to manipulate energy, to change your size and form. But these abilities require training and control. Like superpowers, Ethan whispered, awe in his voice. I believe, Vexer said carefully, that the wisest course would be for Ethan to remain with me for a time, to learn about his new nature and how to control his emerging abilities. Once he has mastered them, we can revisit the question of returning to Earth. Ethan's face fell slightly. But my family, they'll think I'm dead. Vexer considered this problem. Perhaps we could send them a message, some sign that you are alive and well, even if you cannot return immediately. The luminals exchanged pulses of light, their version of a contemplative silence. Finally, the first orb brightened. There may be a way. We cannot allow direct contact. The risk of disrupting Earth's development is too great, but we could send a dream vision. A dream vision? Ethan asked. We can project images into the minds of your family members while they sleep, the second luminal explained. We cannot tell them everything, but we could show them that you are alive and safe. Ethan's face brightened. Can we do that? Please. Vexer nodded his massive head. It would ease their suffering without revealing too much. I believe it is a wise compromise. That night, as Ethan slept in a chamber prepared for him within the sanctuary, the luminals gathered their consciousness and cast it across the vast distance between galaxies, seeking the minds of the Cole family on Earth. Back in the small white house at the edge of the forest, Rachel Cole woke with a gasp. The dream had been so vivid. Ethan, surrounded by light, smiling and waving. He hadn't spoken, but somehow she'd understood he was safe, that he was being cared for, that his illness was gone. Next to her, her husband Mark stirred, his eyes snapping open. "Did you," he began, "dream about Ethan?" Rachel finished. "Yes." In the next room, their daughter Lily also woke, tears streaming down her face. Not tears of grief as had been common in the 6 weeks since her brother's disappearance, but tears of relief. The family gathered in the kitchen, comparing their identical dreams. None of them could explain it, but all felt the same certainty. Ethan was alive. The authorities didn't believe them, of course. The search for Ethan had long since changed from a rescue operation to a recovery mission. The family's insistence that their missing son was somehow alive and well was attributed to denial and grief. But in their hearts, the Coles knew. Somehow, somewhere, Ethan lived. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Ethan began his new life with Vexor. The Luminals had prepared a small vessel for them, a living ship grown from crystalline matrices that responded to thought. Within this vessel, which resembled a teardrop of pure sapphire when viewed from outside, were comfortable quarters for Ethan's still human needs and vast spaces where Vexor could maintain his natural form. As they departed the Luminals world, Ethan pressed his hands against the transparent hull, watching the emerald planet shrink behind them. "Where are we going now?" he asked. "To a place where we can be safe while you learn to control your new abilities," Vexor replied. "A sanctuary I created long ago, hidden between the dimensions where few can find us." Ethan nodded, accepting this with the remarkable adaptability of childhood. He had been on the brink of death, kidnapped by a space dragon, transformed by ancient energy beings, and was now traveling to a dimensional pocket. Yet he faced it all with curiosity rather than fear. "Vexor," he said after a long moment of watching stars streak by, "am I still human?" The dragon considered the question carefully. "You are still yourself, Ethan. Your memories, your personality, your heart, these remain human. But your body and abilities are changing. You are becoming something new, something that has never existed before. Half human, half dragon? Something like that, yes." Ethan thought about this, then smiled. "That's pretty cool, actually." Vexor found himself amused by the child's response. After millennia of existence, it was refreshing to see the universe through young eyes. Eyes that found wonder and excitement where others might find only fear and confusion. "It is cool," Vexor agreed, using the human vernacular with some amusement. "But it will also be challenging. The powers you are developing must be controlled with precision and wisdom. Will you teach me?" Ethan asked, looking up at the massive dragon with complete trust. "I will," Vexor promised. "And perhaps, young one, you will teach me as well." The journey to Vexor's sanctuary took another week. During this time, Ethan's transformation continued to progress. His hair now shifted colors depending on his mood: deep blue when calm, fiery red when excited, soft violet when tired. His skin had developed a subtle pattern of scales visible only in certain light, and his eyes glowed with inner fire when his emotions ran strong. More significantly, he discovered he could manipulate small objects with his mind, creating fields of energy similar to those Vexor used. The first time he accidentally levitated his food bowl during a meal, his delighted laughter echoed through the living ship. Finally, they arrived at their destination, not a planet or a star system, but a shimmer in the fabric of space itself. Vexor guided their vessel through this distortion, and suddenly they were elsewhere, a pocket dimension the dragon had created centuries ago as a refuge from those who haunted his kind. Inside this dimensional bubble existed a small artificial world. A single continent floated in a shallow sea, with mountains rising at its center and forests spreading from their base. The sky overhead wasn't black like space, but a perpetual twilight of deep purples and blues, painted with unfamiliar stars and ribbons of cosmic energy. Their ship settled on a plateau overlooking the sea. As they disembarked, Ethan gazed around in wonder. "You made all this?" "Over many centuries, yes," Vexor confirmed. "This place exists outside normal space-time. Here, we will be safe, and you can learn without risk to yourself or others." And learn he did. Over the next 5 years, Ethan grew not just in height, but in power and understanding. Under Vexor's patient guidance, he mastered control of his telekinetic abilities, learned to generate and manipulate energy fields, and even began to grasp the complex physics of folding space. His body continued to change as well. By his 13th birthday, which they celebrated according to Earth's calendar, Ethan could transform his skin into dragon scales at will, making him impervious to extreme temperatures and even the vacuum of space. He could expand his size to nearly twice his human height or compress himself to the size of a small animal. He could see energy patterns invisible to human eyes and hear frequencies far beyond human range. Yet despite these extraordinary changes, Ethan remained fundamentally himself, a curious, kind-hearted boy who missed his family and his home world. Each night before sleeping, he would look up at the artificial stars of their pocket dimension and think of Earth, wondering what his parents and sister were doing, how they had changed, whether they still remembered him. Vexor observed these moments of melancholy with growing concern. The bond between them had deepened over the years. The dragon had come to care for Ethan as his own child, teaching him not just about his powers, but about the history of cosmic dragons, the wonders of the galaxy, and the wisdom accumulated over millennia of existence. But Vexor knew that Ethan's human heart still yearned for connection with his own kind. And as the boy's powers stabilized and his control became more precise, the dragon began to consider the possibility of returning him to Earth, at least for a visit. The opportunity presented itself on the 5th anniversary of their arrival at the sanctuary. Ethan had mastered a particularly difficult technique, the ability to cloak himself from detection while in his human form. This skill would be essential if he were to return to Earth without causing panic or drawing unwanted attention. As they sat on the shore of the dimensional sea, watching twin moons rise over the water, Vexor turned to his young protege. "You have progressed far beyond my expectations, Ethan. Your control is exemplary, your wisdom growing with your power." Ethan smiled, but there was a shadow in his glowing eyes. "Thank you. I've had a good teacher." "You are thinking of Earth again," Vexor observed. The boy nodded. "Today would be my sister's 16th birthday. I wonder if she's having a party, if she still likes chocolate cake with strawberry filling." Vexor was quiet for a long moment, considering his next words carefully. "Would you like to find out?" Ethan's head snapped up, his eyes wide and suddenly burning bright gold with excitement. "You mean go back? To Earth? Really?" "For a visit," Vexor clarified. "You have mastered the cloaking technique, and your control over your abilities is strong enough now that I believe you could pass for human if you concentrate." "When can we go?" Ethan asked, already on his feet, his hair shifting to vibrant crimson in his excitement. "We must plan carefully," Vexor cautioned. 5 Earth years have passed. Your family has likely moved forward with their lives, and you have changed in ways they cannot possibly understand. Some of Ethan's excitement dimmed as he considered this. "They might not even recognize me." "They might not," Vexor agreed. "And we cannot simply appear on their doorstep and reveal everything. The consequences could be severe for them and for you." "So what do we do?" "We observe first," Vexor decided. "We go to Earth, find your family, and watch from a distance. Then we can determine the safest way for you to make contact, if that is still what you wish after seeing how their lives have progressed." Ethan nodded solemnly. "That makes sense. When do we leave?" "We can depart tomorrow," Vexor said. "The journey will take approximately 3 weeks, even with space folding. Use that time to practice maintaining your human appearance and controlling your energy signature." The next day, they boarded their crystalline vessel and departed the sanctuary, slipping back into normal space-time through the dimensional rift. Ethan spent the journey as Vexor had suggested, practicing rigorous control of his appearance and powers. He learned to suppress the glow in his eyes, to keep his hair a consistent brown, and to hide the scale patterns that now covered much of his skin. It was harder than he expected. In the 5 years since his transformation, Ethan had grown accustomed to letting his draconic nature express itself freely. Now he had to constrain it, wrap it in layers of careful control. By the time they approached Earth's solar system, however, he could maintain a convincingly human appearance for several hours at a stretch. They entered Earth's system from above the ecliptic plane, avoiding the major shipping lanes and monitoring stations that humans had established in the years since Ethan's departure. Earth itself had changed. There were more orbital platforms, a larger lunar base, and the beginnings of a Martian colony visible as they passed the red planet. Humanity has been busy, Vexor observed as they cloaked their vessel and descended toward Earth. They're explorers now, Ethan said with pride. Just like us. They approached North America under cover of night, their ship's cloaking systems easily evading Earth's detection grid. As they neared the small town where Ethan had been born, however, they encountered an unexpected problem. The house is gone, Ethan said, peering through the vessel's viewing system at the location where his family's home had stood. In its place was a small commercial building, some kind of shop with an attached cafe. They have moved, Vexor noted. Not unexpected after 5 years. Disappointment clouded Ethan's features, his hair unconsciously shifting to a dull gray before he caught himself and forced it back to brown. How will we find them? Human societies keep records, Vexor reminded him. We can access their information networks. Using the ship's systems, they tapped into Earth's internet, searching for records of the Cole family. It took several hours of careful probing, but eventually they found what they sought, an address in a city some 300 miles from their original home. By dawn, they had positioned their vessel in orbit and prepared for Ethan's first return to Earth's surface in 5 years. The plan was simple but cautious. Ethan would teleport down in his human form, observe his family from a distance, and then return to the ship to report. Remember, Vexor cautioned as Ethan prepared for teleportation, maintain your control at all times. Do not use your abilities where humans might observe you. And if you feel your control slipping, return immediately. Ethan nodded, his expression serious. He had donned Earth clothes synthesized by the ship, jeans, a simple t-shirt, and a hooded sweatshirt to help him blend in. At 13, he was tall for his age, his body lean and strong from years of training. I'm ready, he said, closing his eyes to focus on the coordinates they had identified. Good hunting, young one, Vexor said softly. I will be monitoring through our connection. With a flicker of energy and a soft displacement of air, Ethan vanished from the ship and reappeared in a quiet alley in the city below. The teleportation was flawless, no visible energy discharge, no sound beyond the gentle whoosh of displaced air. 5 years ago, such precise control would have been impossible for him. Ethan stepped out of the alley onto a busy sidewalk, momentarily overwhelmed by the sensations of Earth, the smells, the sounds, the press of human minds all around him. His enhanced senses took in far more than his human self ever had, and it took a moment to adjust his perception to filter out the excess stimuli. Once oriented, he made his way toward the address they had discovered, an apartment building in a pleasant neighborhood near the city center. It was mid-morning on a weekday, and Ethan realized that his family members might not even be home. His father would likely be at work, his sister at school. Still, he approached the building, settling on a bench in a small park across the street where he could observe without being obvious. For 2 hours he waited, watching people come and go, trying to sense any familiar presence inside the building. Then, just as he was considering returning to the ship, the building's front door opened, and a woman emerged. A woman Ethan recognized instantly despite the changes 5 years had wrought. His mother, Rachel Cole, looked older, her once brown hair now streaked with gray, her face lined with experiences Ethan could only imagine. But it was undeniably her. Ethan's heart raced, and he had to forcibly suppress the glow that threatened to manifest in his eyes. He wanted nothing more than to run to her, to throw his arms around her and tell her he was alive, that he was well, that he had missed her every day for 5 years. But he remembered Vexor's caution and remained seated, watching as his mother walked down the street toward a nearby shopping center. After a moment's hesitation, Ethan followed at a discreet distance. Rachel entered a grocery store, and Ethan trailed behind, keeping several aisles between them. He watched as she selected items with care, consulting a list on her phone. She looked, not happy, perhaps, but content. Stable. She had rebuilt her life in the wake of her son's disappearance. As she turned down the cereal aisle, Ethan's control nearly broke. There, on her shopping list, he caught a glimpse of an entry. Fruit Loops, Ethan's favorite. After 5 years, she still bought his preferred cereal. Tears welled in Ethan's eyes, and he quickly ducked his head, moving away before his emotions could trigger visible changes in his appearance. He needed time to process what he'd seen, to decide what to do next. Leaving the store, Ethan found a quiet corner of the parking lot and prepared to teleport back to the ship. Just as he was about to engage the energy field, however, a voice called out behind him. "Hey, kid, you dropped this." Ethan turned to see a teenage girl holding up a $5 bill. She was perhaps 16, with long brown hair and familiar green eyes Ethan recognized immediately. "Lily," he whispered, too softly for human ears to hear. His sister approached, extending the money. "This fell out of your pocket," she said. "Thanks," Ethan managed, taking the bill with a slightly trembling hand. Up close, the changes in his sister were even more apparent. The gangly 11-year-old he remembered had grown into a poised young woman. She wore a school uniform, a pleated skirt and blazer with an embroidered crest. "No problem," Lily said with a smile. She started to turn away, then paused, looking at him more closely. "Do I know you? You seem really familiar." Ethan's heart hammered in his chest. "I don't think so," he said, struggling to keep his voice steady. "I'm just visiting the area." Lily continued to study his face. "Weird. You remind me of someone." She shrugged after a moment. "Anyway, have a good day." "You too," Ethan replied, watching as she walked away, heading back toward the grocery store, probably to meet their mother. Once she was out of sight, Ethan teleported back to the ship, his mind and heart racing with what he had seen. "They remember me," were his first words to Vexor as he materialized in the vessel's main chamber. "Mom still buys my favorite cereal." "Lily, she thought I looked familiar." Vexor absorbed this information thoughtfully. "They have not forgotten you, then. But they have continued their lives, as they must." "I want to talk to them," Ethan said firmly. "Not just watch from a distance. I want them to know I'm alive, that I'm okay." "And how will you explain where you have been for 5 years? What you have become?" Vexor asked gently. "Would they understand that their son is now part cosmic dragon? That he can never truly return to a normal human life?" Ethan paced the chamber, his hair cycling through colors as his emotions fluctuated. "I don't know, but I have to try. They're my family, Vexor, and they've suffered because of what happened." The dragon was silent for a long moment, considering. "Perhaps there is a middle path," he finally said. "A way for you to speak with them without revealing everything at once." Over the next 3 days, they formulated a plan. Ethan would approach his family not as their long-lost son and brother, but as a messenger, someone who had encountered Ethan elsewhere and had been asked to deliver news of his well-being. It wasn't perfect, and it required careful control of his appearance and abilities, but it would allow Ethan to interact with his family without immediately confronting them with the full, impossible truth of his transformation. On the 4th day, Ethan teleported back to Earth, this time materializing near the apartment building in the early evening, when all family members were likely to be home. He had aged his appearance slightly, making himself look closer to 16 than 13, further disguising his identity while maintaining a believable human form. With a deep breath to steady himself, Ethan approached the building and found the Cole family's apartment on the directory. He pressed the buzzer for apartment 412 and waited, his heart pounding. "Hello." His father's voice came through the intercom, deeper in Ethan's enhanced hearing than it would have sounded to human ears. "Mr. Cole," Ethan said, pitching his voice slightly higher than normal. "My name is Tyler. I have a message for you and your family." "About Ethan." There was a long silence, then a buzz as the front door unlocked. "4th floor," his father said, voice tight with emotion. Ethan took the elevator up, using the time to center himself and reinforce his control. When he reached the 4th floor, his father was waiting in the hallway outside their apartment. Older, thinner, with more gray in his hair than Ethan remembered, but unmistakably Mark Cole. What about Ethan? Mark asked without preamble. Who are you? It's complicated, Ethan said, maintaining his disguise. Could I speak with your whole family? What I have to say concerns all of you. Mark studied him suspiciously, but nodded and led him into the apartment. Inside, Rachel and Lily were standing in the living room, their faces a mixture of hope and wariness. This is Tyler, Mark said. He says he has news about Ethan. Please, sit down, Ethan said, gesturing to the couch. His family complied, watching him intently as he remained standing. 5 years ago, your son Ethan was taken from his bed. He began, choosing his words with extreme care. He wasn't kidnapped by a person. He was rescued. Rescued, Rachel repeated, her voice cracking. By whom? From what? By a being not from Earth, Ethan said, watching their expressions closely. Ethan was dying. The cancer had spread further than his doctors realized. He had weeks, not months, to live. His family exchanged glances, confusion warring with desperate hope on their faces. This being sensed something special in Ethan, he continued. Something unique that needed to be preserved. He took Ethan to healers far beyond Earth's technology, who were able to cure his cancer completely. You expect us to believe aliens abducted our son to cure him? Mark asked, skepticism heavy in his voice despite the yearning in his eyes. You've already believed it, in a way, Ethan replied softly. The dream you all shared, 6 weeks after he disappeared. That wasn't just a dream. It was a message sent across vast distances to let you know Ethan was alive and well. His family stiffened in shock. They had never spoken publicly about their shared dream. It was something they had kept private, a small flame of hope they had nurtured together. How could you possibly know about that? Lily whispered. Because Ethan told me, he answered. He remembers all of you, every day. He misses you terribly. But he couldn't come back, not right away. The healing changed him. He needed time to understand those changes, to learn to control them. Where is he now? Rachel asked, leaning forward intently. Is he coming home? Ethan hesitated, the moment of truth upon him. He sent me to find out if he still has a home to return to, if his family still wants him, despite how different he's become. Of course we want him, Lily exclaimed. He's my brother. I don't care if he's changed. He's our son, Mark added firmly. Nothing could ever change that. Rachel stood, approaching Ethan slowly. She studied his face with an intensity that made him fear his disguise might not be as effective as he'd hoped. You know where my son is right now, don't you? Ethan nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Tell him, Rachel said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. Tell him that we have never stopped looking for him, that we have never stopped loving him, that whatever has happened, whatever he has become, he will always be our Ethan, and this will always be his home. Something broke inside Ethan then, the careful control he had maintained since arriving on Earth. His eyes began to glow, a soft golden light emanating from them. His hair shifted color, cycling from the artificial brown to his natural blue. The subtle scale patterns on his skin became visible, shimmering in the apartment's light. His family gasped, stepping back in shock and confusion. Mom, Ethan said, his voice cracking as he dropped the disguise entirely. Dad, Lily, it's me. I'm home. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Rachel stepped forward, trembling hands reaching up to touch his face, tracing the now visible scale patterns, looking into his glowing eyes. Ethan, she whispered. My God, Ethan. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. It's me, Mom. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you right away. I was afraid you wouldn't understand what I've become. What have you become? Mark asked, his voice a mixture of wonder and concern as he too approached his transformed son. Something new, Ethan replied honestly. Part human, part something else. The being who took me, Vexer, he's a cosmic dragon, the last of his kind. Somehow, I was born with a fragment of dragon essence inside me. When I was dying, he sensed it from across the galaxy and came to save me. The cancer? Rachel asked. Gone completely, Ethan assured her. The healers cured it by accelerating the integration of the dragon essence. But the process changed me in ways none of us expected. You can change your appearance, Lily observed, watching in fascination as Ethan's hair shifted colors with his emotions. And do other things, Ethan acknowledged. He held out his hand, creating a small sphere of energy that hovered above his palm, glowing softly. I've been learning to control these abilities for 5 years. With this, dragon? Mark asked. Yes. Vexor has been my teacher, my guardian. Ethan smiled softly. My friend. He's in orbit right now, waiting to see if I can come home. Rachel pulled Ethan into a fierce embrace, unconcerned by the energy still dancing around his fingertips. This is your home, she said firmly. It will always be your home. Mark joined the embrace. Then Lily, the family clinging to each other as 5 years of separation crumbled in the face of their reunion. Later that night, after hours of explanations and tearful conversations, Ethan stood on the apartment's small balcony, looking up at the stars. His family had accepted his transformation with a readiness that humbled him. They had questions, countless questions, but the foundation of their love had never wavered. He reached out with his mind, finding the familiar presence of Vexor in orbit above. They want to meet you, he communicated silently to his draconic mentor. Is that wise? Vexor's thoughts returned, tinged with caution. They're my family, Ethan replied. And so are you now. 2 parts of my life that should know each other. There was a long pause before Vexor responded. I will come at dawn. There is a clearing in the forest park 3 miles north of your location. Meet me there. The next morning, Ethan led his family to the clearing. They had risen before sunrise, driving in nervous silence to the location Vexor had specified. As the first rays of dawn broke over the eastern horizon, a shimmer appeared in the air above the clearing. Is that him? Lily whispered, gripping Ethan's arm tightly. He's coming, Ethan confirmed, feeling the familiar resonance of Vexor's approach. Remember, he's very large. Try not to be frightened. We'll try, Mark said dryly. But no promises when facing a space dragon. The air rippled and distorted, and then Vexor was there, not in his full cosmic form, which would have been overwhelming, but still impressive at nearly the size of a city bus. His serpentine body coiled as he hovered above the ground. His scales gleamed in the dawn light, shifting through colors like oil on water. Ethan's family stared in awe, their faces a mixture of fear and wonder. Vexor regarded them silently, his ancient eyes taking in the humans who had created and raised the child he had come to care for as his own. Vexor, Ethan said aloud, for his family's benefit. These are my parents, Mark and Rachel Cole, and my sister Lily. My family, this is Vexor, the last of the void currents, guardian of the cosmic rifts, and my friend. Rachel, always the bravest of them, stepped forward. Thank you, she said simply, her voice clear despite her obvious fear. Thank you for saving our son. Vexor lowered his massive head until it was level with the humans. Your son, he replied, his mental voice projecting so all could hear, saved me as well. For centuries, I believed I was the last of my kind, doomed to wander the cosmos alone until the end of my days. In Ethan, I found hope, a future for what cosmic dragons might become. What happens now? Mark asked, finding his courage in the face of the dragon's surprising gentleness. That, Vexor said, is for Ethan to decide. All eyes turned to Ethan, who stood between his human family and his draconic mentor, the literal bridge between 2 worlds. He had thought about this moment for days, weighing possibilities and outcomes. I want both, he said finally. I want to be with my family, to finish growing up on Earth. But I also need to continue learning from Vexor, mastering my abilities and understanding my dragon nature. Perhaps, Vexor suggested, there is no need to choose. Earth could be your home, while the sanctuary becomes your school. I can create a portal between them, allowing you to move freely between worlds. You could do that? Ethan asked, surprised. For you, young one, I would reshape the dimensions themselves, Vexor replied. And though dragons could not smile in the human sense, Ethan felt the warmth in his mental voice. And so it was decided. Ethan would return to live with his family, attending human school and reconnecting with the world of his birth. But 3 days each week, he would travel through Vexor's dimensional portal to continue his education in dragon abilities and cosmic knowledge. The authorities were told a modified version of the truth, that Ethan had been taken for medical treatment by a private research organization, kept in isolation while experimental procedures saved his life, and had only now been cleared to return home. His altered appearance was attributed to side effects of these treatments. Most people accepted this explanation without question, more interested in celebrating the miracle of his return than questioning the details. In the years that followed, Ethan Cole lived a unique double life. On Earth, he was a remarkable but ultimately human teenager, excelling in school despite his 5-year absence, making friends, and experiencing the normal joys and challenges of growing up. His family treasured every moment with him, knowing how close they had come to losing him forever. In Vexor's sanctuary, he was the heir to an ancient cosmic legacy, developing powers beyond human imagination and learning wisdom passed down through millennia. As he matured, his abilities grew stronger and his control more precise. By his 18th birthday, he could fold space independently, traveling between stars without assistance. On that birthday, Vexor presented him with a gift, a map of the galaxy marked with the locations of other human children who showed faint traces of dragon essence. Not as strong as Ethan's, but present nonetheless. "You are not alone," Vexor told him. "There are others, perhaps dozens scattered across Earth and its colonies. Children born with the potential to become what you are." Neritha's essence found more hosts than just me, Ethan realized. Indeed, though none as receptive as you were, their development will be slower, more subtle. They will need guidance when their abilities begin to manifest. Ethan understood the implication immediately. "You want me to find them? To be their teacher, as you were mine?" "Who better?" Vexor asked. "You understand both worlds, human and dragon. You can help these children navigate the path between." It was a purpose worthy of what he had become, a bridge between species, between worlds, between what humanity was and what it might evolve to be. With his family's blessing and Vexor's guidance, Ethan began seeking out these children, creating a network of young dragon-touched humans across Earth and its colonies. Some chose to keep their abilities secret, living largely human lives while quietly developing their draconic potential. Others embraced their dual nature fully, becoming ambassadors to the stars, using their unique perspectives to forge connections between humanity and the diverse species of the galaxy. And as for Vexor, the once lonely cosmic dragon found himself at the center of a new kind of family. Not pure dragon as his species had been, but a hybrid community that carried forward the best aspects of both human and dragon nature. His solitude ended not with the discovery of another pure cosmic dragon, but with the creation of something new and wonderful. The last cosmic dragon was the last no longer. Through Ethan and the other dragon-touched children, a new chapter in the cosmic dragon story had begun, one written among the stars, but with its first pages firmly rooted on a small blue planet called Earth. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.